I'm here with Peter Polder, who's a freelance researcher in oil and gas. Peter, one of your main arguments is that we have to move beyond oil, that we have to move to an era without petroleum. So why is that?
Because if you look at the oil market at this moment, there are some things radically changing. Um, Conventional, easy to produce oil is declining since 2005. It's getting scarcer and scarcer. And what's filling up the gap now is really expensive, dirty, and riskful oil. So there's oil from the deep sea, from shale oil projects, from tar sands, but also quite literally oil from conflict zones, like they're now proposing drilling for oil in Somalia. Um, that also means that the high oil prices that we see now, for about $100 a barrel, are here to stay. Or actually, if oil prices are below $100 a barrel, several oil projects will stop and you will get a scarcity of oil. But on the other hand, if it's rising above $120 a barrel, we have a major economic shutdown. Then lots of factories will close. So at this moment, you'll see that these high oil prices and the scarcity in oil is creating more and more environmental and economic problems. And the only way to break away from that is cutting the demands, is making sure that we are finding a way to use less oil.
But when oil prices are rising, wouldn't it be a good idea for Greece actually to start drilling in the Aegean Sea to earn some money?
Well, maybe for the state that will help, but for Greek oil consumers that wouldn't make a difference because the oil price is set on the international market. So even Greece's own oil will cost you $100 a barrel. So for all those people that at this moment can't afford their heating bills anymore or can't afford access to transport anymore, that won't make a difference. And next to that, what you always see happening in this kind of oil finds is that at first hand you get the resource numbers, which are really big, and people think they are incredibly rich. But the closer the drilling gets, the smaller the number will be, and the less oil they'll actually be able to produce.
You also have looked into oil dependence of Greece in general. So what are the main characteristics of the situation? What's the main problem?
That if you look at Europe, Greece is one of the countries with the highest dependency on oil, together with several of the other, what they call the PIGS countries, and that has been a major factor in why their economies were so heavily hit, because they have to spend more and more money on importing oil, and that disrupts the trade balance, but also slows down the economic growth and just costs jobs, and more people will spend money on heating and on their car, and not on all the other things in life. And basically, getting away from this crisis will be impossible without changing your oil dependence. So if you keep the way things are now in Greece, you will never get away from this crisis.
So how to find strategies for an era without petroleum? What are next steps? What are viable strategies? What do you propose?
Well, of course, it would. On first hand, it would be really beautiful if it would work that way. If you can, as a government, make a plan on how to get rid of this oil dependence and really look at where is the oil being used, what are the alternatives, how we can get these alternatives working. But the problem is you're really talking about oil addiction. You're talking about a smoker that you're saying it's unhealthy to smoke, stop, but he won't stop. So any political party that actually proposes for instance, lower car speeds, which will be a really effective way to save oil, will lose votes and won't get this policy into place. So what you on the first hand have to do is make people really clear that Greece is in an oil crisis, and that we have to talk on how to get away from that. But also to support all those local initiatives that help on a local scale people to break away from oil.
So which kind of initiatives are you talking about? What's
That can be
effective? What's effective?
that can mean any kind of projects from car sharing to local food production to people helping to isolate and heat their house in another way. But all those projects that show you that you can actually get away from oil, but then you also have to frame it as such and make clear that there is a bigger goal behind that. Because then it will not only have this local impact, but can also build support for the bigger steps and the bigger plans that are necessary.
Thanks a lot, Peter.
You're welcome.